are.
The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Stay motivated and change your socks. Hey!
The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a veteran story. But before we get into the episode, or you enjoying the podcast, make sure you go to the website. That's the lostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. There is a merchandise tab there. You can go in and get you some cool gear, but everything you get helps support us and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Also, a big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project. They're out there doing some amazing things. If you don't know anything about that organization, go check them out at tillvalhallaproject.com. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. All right, with that, I got my guest here for today, Master Gunnery Sergeant retired, Duane King. This guy is an incredible Marine. So Duane, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I mean, you literally just retired not too long ago. You know, what was it? 2 weeks now?
2 weeks, yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks. And of course, for everybody listening, if they don't know, he was a drum major for the President's own Marine Band. So he was the senior enlisted there. And that's where he retired from. It was awesome. I got to go see the retirement ceremony, and it was great, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you could be there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I guess we'll go back like I do with everybody. Start at the beginning. Where you grew up, what was that like, and what drew you to military service?
Yeah. Again, I appreciate being here. I was born in Gainesville, Florida. My whole family was from that area. And then probably, I don't know, 6th grade, we moved up to Jacksonville, Florida, which is the northeast corner of Florida. That's where I grew up. Started band in 6th grade, started playing trumpet. My mom, my dad, aunts and uncles were all in high school band. And so my mom told me in my 6th grade year, you will do band for 1 year. If you don't like it, you can quit, but you're going to try it for 1 year. And after that first year, I fell in love with music. I fell in love with playing the trumpet. It fit me. It fit who I was. And so I really, really enjoyed doing that. So I kept doing it, played it all the way through high school, graduated high school, Cherry Parker Senior High School in 1994. And then I left 4 days after graduation, and I marched with the Magic of Orlando Drum and Bugle Corps.
Wow.
94 season.
Okay.
Did that, made a lot of great lifelong friends, an amazing experience, both personally and musically, marching in drum corps with DCI.
Yeah.
And so to back up a little bit, going into my senior year, I was starting to figure out what I wanted to do after high school. And I was just smart enough to realize that I was too dumb to go to college. And what I say by that is all I cared about in high school was playing music. I got A's in all my band classes. I got C's in everything else.
Yeah.
I did just enough to get by to pass the academic classes. And so it kind of dawned on me that work ethic was not going to survive in college. So I started talking with my mom about other options, and her father, my grandfather, served in World War II in the Army, and he landed on the second day at D-Day. And then my mom's brother was in an infantry unit in Vietnam.
Okay.
My dad served in the Air Force for a little while back in, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s, like between Korea and Vietnam.
Right.
Other cousins, uncles, stuff like that were all in the military. So my family's had a long military history. And so I always knew that that was an option, and seen recruiters around the high school and talked with them, and
Right.
not given it too much thought until then. And so I realized quickly that the military was going to be a good option once I learned that they had music programs, because all I wanted to do coming out of high school was play my trumpet. Just wanted to make music. So it didn't take me long to realize that I could get paid to play music and not have to do math, English, science, history, stuff that
all the fun stuff.
all the fun stuff that I had zero work ethic for. I really did. So it was actually, so my mom and I decided, okay, we're gonna talk with the recruiters and see what they have to offer. So we actually set up interviews with all 4 service recruiters at that time: Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force. And we scheduled, I don't know, it was like a Monday night or something, and we scheduled them back to back, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. We had
nice.
The Army recruiters covered that. The Army recruiter came in. And I'm not kidding you, I can still remember this to this day, each one of these interviews. The Army recruiter came in. His shirt was heavy. He was in like, I don't know, the equivalent of our service Charlies, whatever that is for the Army.
Yeah.
Shirt was halfway untucked.
Oh, man.
And I didn't even know it back then, but I'm like, how would you walk into an interview like that with your shirt on, like military uniform, not looking good?
Right.
And I think right then and there, that kind of set the stage for things to come. He didn't know much about the music program, but of course he tried to sell me on everything great about the Army. And a lot of respect for the Army, again, with family members being in the Army. So it wasn't out of the question. The Air Force recruiter, I think, was next, and basically sat in my dining room with my mom and I and told me I wasn't good enough to join their band program.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, all district every year, all region every year, all state twice, March Drum Corps, like, I'm betting I am,
Yeah.
And then he hit me with well, if you are good enough to happen to pass one of our auditions, then once a spot opens up at a band, we can then move you over into a spot as a musician.
Yeah.
So what am I going to be doing until then? He's like, oh, we've got all these great options. So you're telling me I'll be loading bombs on a flight line somewhere in hopes that a spot opens up. He's like, well, yeah, but we've got all these other great thanks, but no thanks.
Wow.
Navy recruiter comes in and knew next to nothing about the program. And he was nice enough. At least he seemed professional about the whole thing. And just really wasn't interested in me in bringing in a musician.
Right.
There was just no connection there whatsoever. And then the Marine recruiter came in, and just as you would expect, I mean, the guy looked like $1 million. I did a staff sergeant. I don't even remember. He ended up being my recruiter. I don't even remember his name now. But looked like $1 million and just had all of the attributes that you expect out of a Marine, right?
Right.
He looked you in the eye when he talked to you, right? He used manners. He respected. He didn't interrupt you. All of these things that that makes an interview go well, makes you feel good, makes you feel respected and important. Didn't BS me about what he knew and didn't know about the music program. But then he's like, I'll find out and I'll let you know. Right. We all know that line now. I don't know, but I'll find out and let you know.
Yeah.
And so it was a great interview. So he leaves. My mom and I were like, well, this is, within reason, pretty cut and dry. If I'm going to go in the military, it's going to be the Marine Corps. Nice.
So you both of you were sold pretty quick then on once the Marine recruiter came in.
Yeah, it was night and day difference between the Marine recruiter and the other 3 recruiters.
Yeah.
I mean, just night and day difference. There was nothing even close. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to go, I'm going to be, and I had seen, I want to say it was the Paris Island Band at a marching band competition, probably my sophomore or junior year. Oh, okay. They came out, they marched out on the field, did a concert band split, did the national anthem, like a pregame type thing. And I was impressed with them then, but I'd kind of forgotten about that when my senior year rolled around. So I start thinking back on those interactions. I got to talk with some of the musicians after that marching band show my sophomore year as well. And it kind of solidified what he had told me and what I knew.
Right.
So talked it over with my mom, and I was still 17 at the time. So she and my dad both had to basically co-sign for me to join the Marine Corps.
Right.
And then when I finished drum corps the summer of 1994, I had enlisted in the delayed entry program back in March. And they told me then and there that, okay, we don't have any spots for trumpet players until December. So you're gonna have to wait till then. I was like, fine, no problems. So when I came back,
that worked out well for the summer, to be able to travel and stuff.
It really did. Yeah. And I knew that I'd already committed to marching drum corps. So leaving in the summer wasn't an option for me. And the recruiters knew that, and they were okay with it. So when I got back from drum corps in August of 94, I get home and my mom's like, well, you're not leaving for boot camp until the middle of December. Either get a job or go to school. So, if you think back to the beginning of this, I had no work ethic whatsoever. So getting a job wasn't high on my priority list.
Yeah.
So I decided to go to community college here in Jacksonville, and went to, at the time it was called Florida Community College, Jacksonville. Now I think it's Florida State College at Jacksonville, if I'm correct. And I took all music classes.
Yeah.
Like 5 days a week, 4 to 5 hours a day. And I played, there was a great professor there, Dr. Dale Blackwell, still good friends with he and his wife here in Jacksonville.
Nice.
Just an incredible professor. And there was a great trumpet studio there. I think there were 5 trumpet players, and I was hands down the worst trumpet player of the 5. These guys, they'd travel with the Buddy Rich Big Band, Woody Herman.
Wow.
You might know him from your time in Lejeune. I'm trying to think of Rob's last name. When did you come in?
I came in 99.
99. You might have been after Rob. Anyways, one of the trumpet players there ended up, Matt Farquhar came. He knew that I was in college there for the semester. And he was my MTA at the time. And he asked if he could come in and do a band talk at the college, and I set it up with Dale, and he let him come in. And Rob was by far the prodigy trumpet player in the studio.
Yeah.
I think his freshman year, he won the lead spot with the top jazz band at the University of Miami as a freshman.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy was incredible, and he traveled around. He had cut CDs, like he was probably in his early 30s then.
Wow.
And Matt comes in, has a talk. Rob goes up to him afterwards and talks, like, hey, what's this like? I'm looking for a change in my life. He's like, well, and Matt didn't know anything about Rob, and I hadn't had a chance to tell Matt how good of a player Rob was. And so he's like, well, do you have a horn? Do you want to maybe take an audition, or call me? And Rob's like, sure, I'll do it now. So he go into a practice studio and just absolutely just destroys the audition, just blows him away. And about 10 minutes into it, Matt's like, okay, you're more than good enough. Rob ended up enlisting and went through the school of music, and then down to, I want to say it was either Cherry Point or Lejeune. And then I want to say in his first enlistment, ended up developing, cancer.
Oh, wow.
Lymphoma, something like that, and ended up passing away. It was tragic. But, just a phenomenal guy, a great player. And, it was leading up to me going to boot camp. So finished the semester in early December, December 12th, 94. I left for boot camp and went to Parris Island. And boot camp is what we all know boot camp is.
What were some things that stood out to you in boot camp?
Oh, the sand fleas. Good God. The sand fleas. The thing that I know now, looking back on it and after being stationed at Parris Island, is you don't realize as a recruit how small the island is.
Oh, yeah.
They run you around and they march you all over that freaking island. And because you're so focused on what your drill instructors are doing or saying or yelling at you or what you're trying to do or regurgitate whatever information, right? You don't realize that you're basically walking back and forth or running in circles around the stupid islands. And so it felt like it was 100 miles around. And the thing's like 3.5 miles around, something stupid like that. It's a
Wow.
tiny little island.
Yeah, you could have swore it was 100 miles, huh?
Yeah, and it's what it felt like. It's what it felt like. And when I got back there later in my career, I was like, son of a bitch, this thing's this small. No, but I had really good. I had a wide range. We had four drill instructors for my entire time in boot camp, which was nice to have because I know that doesn't always happen. And they were all four of them were staff sergeants. The senior drill instructor, I mean, he was pretty seasoned. He was a great senior, but he was actually nice enough, if you can believe that I'm saying that about a drill instructor. When we started third phase, now remember this is back in '95, so way different than where things are now.
Right.
I went to him and I was like, hey. It might not have been the start of third phase. It might have been a little bit later, like a week or two into third phase.
Okay.
They were starting to let us get a little bit more mail and stuff like that from home. And so I, just sucked it up and went and knocked on the drill instructor's hatch, and the senior drill instructor was on duty that day. And basically, talked to him and said, listen, I already know that I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to go into the Marine Corps band program. It would really, really benefit me if you could allow my mom to mail me my trumpet mouthpiece.
Okay.
And the hour that we get every evening, give me a chance to start playing long tones. Like I'll go in the shower. I don't the whiskey lager. I don't care, and he did. And
wow.
So I was able to start buzzing on my mouthpiece again, like 2 or 3 weeks before anyone else could touch a horn.
That's awesome.
That ended up going to the School of Music, so I was well ahead of where most other people would have been, and so that was great. Whole family came up. A funny thing is, remember I said that my grandfather served in the Army in World War II.
Right.
The Army and the Marines did not get along in World War II.
Yeah.
Right. The only Marines my grandfather ever knew were drunks. They always got into fights. They were always, abusing women, whatever the case may be. And so he hated Marines for his whole life. So when I told him I enlisted in the Marine Corps, from the time I entered the delayed entry program, the next time I went down to my grandparents' house, told them like, hey, I'm enlisting in the Marine Corps. He stopped talking to me completely.
No kidding.
Yeah, from May of '94 until I graduated boot camp on March 4th, 1995, he didn't say one word to me. Not a single word.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he was pissed
Wow.
that I joined the Marine Corps. But my mom and my grandmother convinced him to come up to Parris Island for my boot camp graduation. And we were able to talk and mend things, if you will.
Yeah.
We ended up having 10 times of a better relationship because I had now joined the military than we ever had a year prior. I now knew a little bit of what he had been through, kind of, run the gauntlet type of thing. Like it didn't go in World War II. Clearly, it never served in combat.
Right.
But it was a different level of respect, and he saw the Marine Corps from a different light. And was able to kind of change his opinion on things about the Marine Corps. So it was
that's
really
awesome. Yeah. It's twofold in that, it made a better bond between you, and he sees the Marine Corps a little bit different. So that's the way it should be. I like it.
Yeah. So graduate boot camp, go home on 10 days of boot leave or whatever it was, back up to Camp Lejeune, Camp Geiger for MCT, and took my trumpet with me. And just literally just shoved it in my wall locker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And again, back then, and I think when you came in, MCT was still a full month long and you had weeks off. I don't know what it is now.
I don't either.
It had changed at some point where you went like 7, like it was only like 3 weeks, but you didn't get any weekends off or something like that. Anyways. But every evening, when you were done training for the day, you were kind of left to your own devices.
Right.
And so I would pull my trumpet out of my case and I'd walk out of the barracks and go out into the wood line and just play long tones and practice on my trumpet.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was really fortunate, and I had family that lived in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
And so every Friday night, we'd all go line up outside the payphones.
Yeah.
Make a phone call. I'd call my uncle, and he'd come pick me up and take me home with him for the weekend. So it was great to be able to spend some time.
Oh, that is good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finished up there October of 95, I think it was. Finished combat training in March, April, whatever it was, then straight to the School of Music from there for the basic course.
Okay.
And I think it was April through October, I was in Norfolk at the School of Music.
Now, did you have like a good time at the School of Music while you're there? Or?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It was interesting coming out of the I can't remember the phrase for it, like out of the really controlled training environment, going to the school where you have a lot more freedom, kind of come and go as you please, be an adult, do your homework, practice, get yourself to the chow hall, all of those things.
Right.
It was nice. But you also saw the influence. That's where you really saw the influence that drill instructors had on people, because everybody is there. Check in, everybody's running around, the senior lance corporal is acting like a drill instructor.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I quickly learned. I was like, I don't know that this is the right way to do it, but I guess it'll work. But yeah, I mean, it was the School of Music was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I learned a ton while I was there.
Who was your trumpet instructor back then? Do you remember?
Navy Chief Dominic. Crap, what was his name?
Something Ski?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to differentiate between that and when I went back for the CCDM course in 2000.
Yeah.
Because I think Mitch Martin was one. I had two instructors. Both times I went through when I went through the basic course and through the CCDM course later on, I had two instructors that kind of like.
Oh, okay.
First few months I had one instructor, and then they left, and I had another instructor. I can't always remember who those instructors were.
No, it's all good. I was just wondering who it would have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So left there. I ended up, when I was there, Chris DeBow, Master Guns DeBow, was senior enlisted at School of Music when I was there. And he had a thing that if you got a 300 on your PFT, he would take you out for steak dinner.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah,
if you got a 285 or higher, he would take you out for pizza.
Okay.
And so, I don't know, it was like we had to run a PFT right near the end of the basic course.
Uh-huh.
And so, I mean, it was like right around F2 time, ran a PFT, all of it kind of hit all at once. And me and I think three other Marines got 285 or higher on our PFT. So he's like, meet me here, 1700, we're going to get pizza. Great.
Nice.
So I knew I'd passed my F2, did great on my PFT. And so I had originally, my top choice was Hawaii. For duty station. Hawaii was my top choice. And by all accounts, they needed trumpet players there from what I'd heard. So like I was going to go to Hawaii.
Right.
And we're sitting there and we're talking about life in a band with Master Guns DeBow. And he looks at me, he's like, Lance Corporal King, have you ever thought about going to New Orleans? And I'd been in New Orleans when I was in high school over the summer with my aunt and uncle for like dog shows and stuff like that. I'd been in New Orleans twice. So like, I like New Orleans. It was cool. I'd never thought about being in a band there. Because I was just dead set. I just wanted to go to Hawaii because, well, it's Hawaii.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so he's like, well, I'll be honest with you. Like if you sit here and tell me right now that Hawaii is where you want to go, I'll give you orders to Hawaii. But there are right now there are like four trumpet players in New Orleans, and they're getting ready to lose two of them. We need you to go there, right? He's like, you'd really be helping us out if you said you'd be willing to go to New Orleans. I was like, sure, it's New Orleans. I'm a trumpet player. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to be as a trumpet player down in New Orleans.
Heck no.
Yeah.
So they cut me orders to New Orleans, and off I go down to New Orleans. When I get to the band in New Orleans, they were actually out of town. They were TAD at Texas State Fair, I believe.
Yeah.
So I check in on a Friday evening, check into the barracks. And at the time, the band was still in almost like a civilian facility, completely off base.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's now like an RV repair center or something out in Belchase.
Wow.
But that's where the band was located. But the base we were on in Algiers. So I check into the barracks, get there, and whoever the duty was like, well, the band's out of town. Here's your key. Here's your sheets. Here's your barracks room. Go get settled in. Have fun this weekend. The band will get in touch with you when they're back on Monday morning, and they'll start your check-in process. It's like, cool. So the band comes back. I don't know. They came back like Sunday afternoon. I start hearing a bunch of people out in the barracks, in the hallway of the barracks. So I got there and see a couple of guys that I knew from the school. So we start talking. We ended up all going out and eating and drinking that night, and then started into life in New Orleans. That weekend, Saturday night, I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm a trumpet player. I'm going to go down to Bourbon Street and see if I can make some money. So I grabbed my horn and a fake book of Dixieland tunes.
No kidding.
I threw my case out on the street and just started playing heads because I couldn't improvise for shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm just playing heads. I'll play a head 2 or 3 times, flip a page, play the head 2 or 3 times, flip a page. And I don't know, I made like $80 that night.
No kidding.
Yeah. Come to find out it's illegal to do that without a license.
I did not know that either.
Yeah. It's called busking. BUSKING, busking.
Busking. Okay.
And you have to, I don't know if you have to have a license or be certified or a permit, something like that. But yeah, you can't just roll out there and do it.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I got away with it and ended up never going back down there to do that specifically. I spent a lot of time at Bourbon Street, but not to play.
So what was like your overall impressions of being in the band in New Orleans? Like, what was that experience and I guess the day-to-day for you?
It was, the one thing that surprised me was how much playing we did on a daily basis. You're
Mm-hmm.
playing all day, every day. And then the fact that we had to run our own logistical areas was weird for me. I'm like, I mean, I get it, but like, I figured we'd have people do that for us. And so the good thing about having gone to New Orleans was when I was at the School of Music at the basic course, there was a sergeant going through the CCDM course named Phil Nixon.
Okay.
And Phil and I played basketball together all the time. And when I say competitive, holy crap, Phil's one of the most competitive people. One of the coolest dudes you'll ever meet in your life. Great trumpet player. I mean, just like everything this guy does is fantastic. Love Phil to death. Anyways, he got down to New Orleans, I don't know, a month before I did or something.
Okay.
And so it was me, Phil Nixon, Flex Romero was our section leader. And I'm trying to remember if anybody else was there. There might have been one other trumpet player there in the early beginning. Balder Saunders, that's who it was.
Okay.
I knew Balder from the school as well. I think it was just the 4 of us. There might have been 5 at the time, but it was a really, really thin trumpet section. But we'd all played, and we all played all the time, and we all played everything. So we were working our tails off.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was ended up being there for 5 years.
Your first duty station was 5 years. No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, so in 99, I met my wife.
Okay.
Get married, get pregnant, and I was due for orders.
Mm-hmm.
And Master Gunny H, who was our band officer, had retired and left. We were short a band officer. So Master Gunny H was senior enlisted at the time, calls me in. He goes like, hey, you pop for orders. You're going to Okinawa.
Hey.
Go home, tell the wife. I'm like, hey, guess what? We're going to Japan. She's like, hey, guess what? We're pregnant. Can we not do that? I don't know. Let me ask the question. So I go back in. I was like, hey, Master Guns, my wife's from here. She's lived here her entire life. She's pregnant. Is there any way we can delay my orders, so that she can have the kid here and not be in the Far East, having a kid with no family, no support system whatsoever? He's like, well, let me see what I can do. Calls me in a few days later. He's like, all right, we've just punted your orders for a full year.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he really, really, I can't tell you how much he really took care of me with that one. A year later, calls me back in, says, hey, pop for orders. This time you get a choice. It's either Okinawa or 29 Palms. Okay, thanks. I was like, let me talk with my wife about it. Went home that night, and she's like, I don't want to go to either place, but if I have to go to one, I'd rather stay in the States. So let's go 29 Palms.
Yeah.
And so October of 2000, leave New Orleans, and I drove by myself out to 29 Palms, and then
that was in your old Jeep, right?
Yeah, I had a 95 Wildjet. I drove out there. Then I got broken into, and all my uniforms stolen.
Oh, yeah.
On the way out there, so I left New Orleans. I don't know, whatever day it was. Drive the first 8-hour drive put me in San Antonio. So I get a place there on Lackland in the Navy Lodge or whatever the Air Force Lodge was.
Right.
And at some point throughout that night, someone cuts open the back of my soft-top Jeep. So my dog's going ape shit.
It's all good.
Yeah, a leaf blew in Gainesville, so apparently he's mad. So somebody cuts the top open of the Jeep. Now, mind you, I've got everything that I personally own.
Yeah.
Trumpets, uniforms, clothes, shoes, any of my
Oh my gosh.
When I say they took everything, the only things they didn't take out of that Jeep were the set of balled up camis that I had checked out of the day prior and just balled up and threw in the front floorboard of my Jeep. But they took my entire seat bag was gone.
Oh, man. They took your trumpets and all that stuff?
Trumpets gone, everything.
Oh, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it was rough. They even took the faceplate. I had one of those detachable faceplates on my stereo. They took the faceplate and tried to rip the radio out. Couldn't rip the radio out, but they ended up breaking the thing. So I had no music to drive from San Antonio to El Paso.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, so it was it was a miserable drive. I took the top off, took the doors off because now I had some place to put the doors in my Jeep. And I just dragged my foot out for 8 hours from driving from San Antonio to El Paso. And then as soon as I got to El Paso, I don't remember what base is there, Fort something or other.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Ended up staying in the Army Lodge or whatever's on that base, got billeting there. Before I even checked into billeting, I went straight to the exchange, bought another radio for my Jeep, installed it in the parking lot. I was like, I'm not going that long without listening to music again. I can't sit in the vehicle and be quiet for that long.
Yeah.
Stayed the night in El Paso, got the next morning, checked into 29 Palms the next day.
Okay.
So then that started the very short time in 29 Palms.
Yeah. Now, I was already there when you showed up?
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah, okay.
You were
that's what I thought. Yeah. So talk to me about your experience in 29 Palms,
So the only reason why I ended up in 29 Palms was because my mom gave me some of the best advice I'd ever gotten. Because I was like year 3, year 4, I was planning on getting out of the Marine Corps before I got married. I was like, you know what? It's not what I want to like. I like what I do. Just don't like some of the people, and you get really stagnated musically in the band sometimes. And that's kind of where I'd gotten, and I really wanted more musically. So my mom and I had talked, and she's like, well, if you decide to get out, you can come back home, move home, and I'll pay for room and board for a year. You have a year to get your chops in shape. And the idea was to go to a conservatory, Juilliard, Eastman, something like that, get my degree, and then audition for either the President's Own or a symphony.
Right.
So that was going to be my goal. And then she's like, if you want to do that, that's fine. Let me know. She's like, but what don't you like about your job? And I said, well, a lot of people had rotated out after 4 years or whatever it was, right? A lot of new people came in. It just wasn't really a great environment there at that time. And I was like, it's like, I love what I do. I'm stagnated musically, and a lot of it has to do with the people that are here. And she's like, well, if you re-enlist, you're going to do the same job, but you get to work with new people, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, then why don't you at least try it, stick around, and see if the people change makes it a difference. And it did. The whole crew we had there in 29 Palms was incredible. They were so much fun to be around. Everybody worked their ass off, from the staff to the troops, NCOs, everybody. They all worked their ass off, and we had a lot of fun. And musically, I felt more challenged there.
I got to say that band in particular was probably the strongest musical band that I've ever been in. They
second for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, we'd played some incredible stuff. I remember was that one Blue Shades? I mean, that's a heavy hitter for drums and percussion stuff. But man, I couldn't believe we were playing some of the stuff we did.
Yeah, it was a really, really, really good band. And for me, I got challenged musically and personality wise. I really fit in with a lot of the people there, and I learned a ton from the staff, about being a professional, what it meant to be a drum major, working with Mark Gleason, and then Chuck Eddy, God rest his soul, when he came in. Getting to work with those two guys, you get to see what does a professional drum major look like,
right?
And how do they operate, right? It was for me, it was kind of the next level, the next step and push that I needed,
right?
And so from then on, I was like, okay, I'm set. I'm doing this for a career, and when you're 4 or 5 years in, you're thinking, okay, I just want to make it to 20. I just want to make it to 20, right?
Right.
That's the goal for everybody, is just to get to 20. Never in a million years saw 30 on my horizon. But life works in weird ways sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Wow.
Yeah. So Mark Gleason left, Gary Beeman had left, Chuck Eddy was there, Dave Anderson had gotten there, and I think Mark might have still been there at this time. I talked with Mark about trying to get a school seat at the CCDM course. And he had reached out to, I guess it was Pac 20 at the time, or whatever they were called that week.
That week.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, got a sergeant trying to get to the school. And whoever was there basically just kind of blew him off, didn't really get him any answers. And so a couple of days later, we had a Monday off because we had a weekend gig or something. And I'm playing golf with Dave Anderson and a couple other people. And standing on the driving range, warming up, Dave's there, and he's like, yeah, so what do you want to do career-wise? What are you looking at? I was like, well, I reached out to, I'd like to be a drum major. I've reached out to talk with Gunny Gleason at the time. He's made some phone calls, hasn't heard anything back. He's like, all right, and Dave was a master sergeant at this time.
Yeah.
He's like, let me make a phone call. I'm going to have you an answer tomorrow. Great. He comes into work the next morning. He's like, and this is, God, I don't know, this is summer of 2001. I got there October 2000. This is summer 2001. I want to say maybe fall. And he goes, pack your stuff. You're in the January 2002 CCDM course. And so,
holy cow.
I spent 13 months in 29 Palms. It was a really quick time, but it was very impactful musically and personally and friend wise.
Yeah.
Everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And everybody from that band, I mean, we've all stayed in contact pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's
pretty
the only
amazing.
band. It's the band that I spent the shortest amount of time at, and the one that I've stayed in contact with the most people from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a good
Just,
point. Yeah.
just a great group of people, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. So off to the CCDM course. Left Twin Palms in December. Went. We go. I guess I don't know if we came to Florida, or if we went to New Orleans for leave, and then January. Oh, I know that's what we did. We came to Florida because knowing that I was only going to be there for 6 months,
hmm
my wife and my 1.5-year-old son at the time, she's like, I don't want to move him any more than we have to. So let's move the family to Florida, back here to Florida where my mom lived.
hmm
And so my wife and son came and lived here with my
Okay.
mom in Florida while I was at the School of Music. That way I could focus on what I needed to focus on, and my son had a relatively stable life, not bouncing in and out of military housing.
Right. Yeah.
So finish up there, and all along, probably the last 2 or 3 years when I was finishing up in New Orleans and got to 29 Palms, I wanted to go to drill instructor school and
hmm
put in an A form, requested to go to drill instructor school twice and got turned down both times.
Yeah.
Both times like, no, we need trumpet players and we're fenced off, so we don't have to let you go. So I'm at the School of Music and they're asking us where we want to go. And I'm like, well, if I haven't been able to get to drill instructor school the normal way, let me get stationed at Paris Island and see if I can just
Oh
walk
yeah.
down the street and talk to them.
Yeah.
And so get stationed. Plus, it's 3 hours from here, where my family is.
Yeah.
It's the closest I was ever going to be to my family in the Marine Corps. So get stationed at Paris Island, rent a house there, move the family up, and it took me about a week to see the schedule that the drill instructors kept, and I was like, nope, no, don't want that. Don't want that. It's like this whole lights to light thing and just having to scream all day, every day. I was like, yeah, I don't think that's for me.
It's a unique job for sure. Yeah.
It is. It
Uh,
is.
and
Yeah.
not necessarily fun when you're doing it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I spent 3 years there.
Okay.
A full
Now
3 years.
you were you drum majoring in those 3
No.
years?
Well, no. I was a senior sergeant at the time. I picked up staff sergeant while I was at Paris Island.
Okay.
2004, I want to say. I picked up staff sergeant while I was there. No, Grady
Okay.
May was there as the drum major.
Right.
And he let me take some gigs here and there. I drum majored a handful of things, but not too much.
Yeah.
Section leader, admin chief, supply chief, library, platoon sergeant, run through all the billets, right? But I'll say that the thing about that band is we had probably the greatest group of sergeants I've ever seen assembled in a band.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, me, not that I'm the greatest in any of them, but obviously I was there with them. Mike Stanley, Steve Davis, Jason Duane, who I think he's a lieutenant colonel now.
Yeah.
God, who else was there with us? Mike Aubie, Dave Klipner.
Dang. Okay.
I mean, there was I know I'm missing somebody like blatant and I can't think of it. Aaron Golden came over. Aaron Fast was there, I think. I mean, we just had a great group of sergeants, and
wow,
everybody was talented. Everybody was, most of those guys already had degrees, right?
Yeah.
So we were constantly pushing the staff, to be better. But it was the tightest group of sergeants I've ever seen in any unit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then my wife got offered her job back. She was a police officer in New Orleans for like 20 years. Then bounces around with me throughout the country. And then was talking with some coworkers back there, and they offered her job back. And so she's like, hey, so you think there's a chance we can get back to New Orleans? Put in an A form, gets turned down. Like, nope, you have to have 3 years time on station. So I tell her we'll wait a year, put in another request, and lo and behold, New Orleans was short trumpet players at the time, especially staff and COs. And so 2005, I left Paris Island and went back to New Orleans. in late June, early July 2005.
Okay.
And then we rented a house out in Metairie, which is kind of northwest, out towards the airport where my wife grew up. A month and a half later, Hurricane Katrina hits, and we lost everything because we were renting a 1-story house. A month and a half into a military move. You don't have crap unpacked yet. You've got some stuff, but you don't have art on the wall. You've got stuff in boxes all over the place in most cases. The band was scheduled. We had a TAD scheduled that weekend that the storm was coming in. August 2005. We were supposed to be up in Indianapolis doing whatever it was we were doing there. So we kind of prepped our families and told them hey, let's make sure everything's packed up because this trip we're still on for this trip, because we don't know what the storm's going to do. Yeah, we know it's coming, but we don't know. In New Orleans, you never know. It's rare that New Orleans gets hit directly by a storm, and even Hurricane Katrina didn't hit it directly. So you always see these. I mean, every year you got 6 or 7 storms that blow through there, and none of them are direct hit, and so you end up just getting a few days off from work, having a hurricane party, and calling it a day.
Right.
So I think the city, the command, everybody there was a little unprepared for what ended up happening. None of us were fully prepared for what really happened. But even in terms of preparation and understanding continuity of operations, anything like that, we were all fairly underprepared for that.
Yeah.
We made it all work. We survived and everything was fine, but it was a struggle.
Yeah.
So we decided hey, we're going on this trip. Have your families, pets ready to go when we make the call. And the plan was that if the city evacuated, we would cancel the gig in Indianapolis, get on the bus and drive and meet our families down in Memphis.
Okay.
So we're up in Indianapolis. Sure enough, evacuation order comes down. We all get on phones, call our families. Hey, pack everybody up. Take what you can carry and meet us in Memphis at X Hotel, some Red Roof Inn off the interstate.
Yeah.
And so we drive down from Indianapolis down to Memphis. Our families all drive in and meet us there. And we all get into hotel rooms and we sat there for a week and watched our houses flood with the rest of the world.
Holy cow.
Yep. And
no kidding.
Yeah. The storm hit on, if I remember, it was a Monday, I think, August 26th, 27th, I believe it was.
Okay.
I should know that. And then the levees broke on Friday of that following week. And that's
the part that really messed everything up, right?
Yeah.
When the levees broke, right?
Yeah. So where we were, the levees didn't break where we were. The levees broke on the east side of town in the 9th Ward, that area.
Yeah.
Up in Lakeview, due north of the French Quarter towards just south of the lake. Levees broke over in that area, kind of north and northeast of the city.
Right.
But what apparently happened out in Metairie in the kind of northwest area where we were was that I'm not sure exactly what happened, but essentially they sent the pump operators home that control the pumps to the canals.
Yeah.
New Orleans is below sea level, so they have canals around to help mitigate the water between Lake Pontchartrain and the Mississippi River and the Gulf, right?
Right.
And something to the effect of they sent the pump operators home because the storm was getting so close and it's going to be so dangerous and they didn't want them to die. And I don't know if because so much water came up the Mississippi River and into the lake, that it flipped the water level between the canal and the lake.
Oh.
And if I'm correct, I believe the pumps basically switched and started going backwards. And so it started sucking water into our part of town. And so we ended up with 6 inches of water in a 1-story house.
Wow. No kidding. Holy cow. Yeah, I didn't realize that happened that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty crappy. And so, I mean, we had family members that were law enforcement that could get in there because so what we decided to do after the week in Memphis, Marfarez, the command, decides, okay, let's get because people units evacuated all over the freaking region.
Yeah.
They said, okay, everybody, this is going to be longer term than we thought. Bring everybody to Fort Worth. and we'll put you up in hotels, whatever.
Yeah.
And so again, we decided by this time, my daughter was born when I was at Paris Island in 2004. So she's a year and a half old, and so again, we decide, let's not move them another time and live in a hotel for God knows how long. Let's move them back to Florida with my mom. And so wife, 2 kids, then moved to Florida and live with my mom again. And I go with the band and I drove her to Florida and then fly back to Fort Worth and met the band there. The band convoyed from Memphis to Fort Worth. And then I flew in a few days later. And we ended up staying at a Ameris Suites, extended stay Ameris Suites hotel in the Hearst Euless Bedford area in between Dallas and Fort Worth. And we lived there for 3-4 months.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah. And we did all of our operations because we still had gigs around because that band travels so much. We still had gigs all over the country.
So you were just doing it from where you guys were at there in Texas. Wow.
We did. Yeah. We would just hop on the bus, drive over to the air station at Fort Worth, hop on a 130 because there was a 130 squadron there.
Oh, and
we flew, I think we went to, one of the trips we took was to Minnesota for like a Toys for Tots event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, so we were still doing gigs. We were doing rehearsals. We did field drill out in the parking lot. We had muster out in the parking lot. I mean, we were just running life.
Yeah. Just normal day, just new location.
Yep. In the meanwhile, none of us are realizing the mental strain that we're all under.
Right. Oh yeah. Huge.
The not a great environment, leadership wise. I'll leave that one alone. But not a great environment there. I learned a lot of lessons in leadership on what not to do from that experience. But eventually December of 2005, we moved back to New Orleans, and for like the next 6-8 months, we're basically working 08 to noon, just coming in, doing rehearsals, maybe doing some gigs if we fly away somewhere, but the whole city was just destroyed. So we were, there was still, for months, there wasn't power, so there were no street lights, so you couldn't work on your house after dark because there was no electricity.
Wow.
I mean, so we worked working half days, and there were 3 or 4 of us in the band that had significant damage in our houses, and so we were able to, get off work at noon and go work on the house for 4 or 5 hours, and so we ended up everything that we lost is, we lost virtually everything that we have as a full claim from our renter's insurance.
Holy cow! I mean, you said it was one story too, so.
Yeah.
I mean, everything.
All the clothes hanging in the closets were all completely mildewed. You couldn't save them because they were just disgusting. Furniture, artwork, family photos.
Oh, man.
Half of my uniforms were still hanging up there because I hadn't put them all in my wall locker yet at work.
Oh, geez.
So I lost uniforms again.
Yeah. Something about New Orleans and uniforms missing.
Good,
I don't know.
Yeah. So, but that was probably the lowest point of my career in terms of mental health and being around the right people or the wrong people or what have you. And it was just, that was really, really, that was a struggle. And then I went from that to the absolute best time in my career, because the next 6 months later, we had new band officer and new band master came in. Chief Officer Mike Smith and Master Kevin. Kevin came in first, and just because of the way his orders worked out. And he was from that area, and Kevin and I were there. Kevin was a staff sergeant when I was a Lance Corporal in New Orleans. Oh, no kidding. Okay. He was a great mentor of mine then. I mean, he's the kind that, when you do something stupid, instead of making you sign a page 11, he'd kind of grab you by the collar and go, come out to the smoke pit, and just counsel me, teach me, smack me upside the back of the head, whatever I needed. Right. So having him there was just a godsend, because he was able to take stock of things, and he's such a cool, calm, collected guy that he can really assess the situation and figure out what needs to happen what type of leader do I need to be for
Right.
for their families, for the command and stuff like that. And then Mike Smith came in as the band officer. Just an amazing personality. And the two of them were an incredible team in terms of for all the staff and COs, teaching us how to be staff and COs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Trusting us implicitly to just do our jobs and not be micromanaged or not be berated because we decided to do A and someone else wanted us to do B. The
Right.
outcome was the same. It just wasn't the way someone else wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all really started to flourish, and the band got really, really, really good. We got a lot of good players in over the next year or two. James Berry, Mike Watson, Chris Calamari, a handful of just smoking players, and just had an absolutely great time. And at that point in time, by the time Mike got there, I was filling in. I'd been platoon sergeant when I got there, and through Hurricane Katrina, I was a platoon sergeant. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a fun time.
That was rough. That was rough. Yeah.
I could see why it was mentally challenging at that point in time for you. Holy man.
I mean, it was because, I had, it might have been between me and one other couple, Christy and Jose Espinoza at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had a lot of damage in their house, but I think between the two of us, we had the most damage in our houses. And, and so it was tough. But being a platoon sergeant, like, you don't have time to bitch about your problems, right? You've got to
That's right.
deal with everybody else's problems. And then when you have not the best leadership in the world, it makes things exponentially worse.
Yeah.
And so, you're dealing with it from both sides, from the troops and from the leadership. And it was a no-win situation. Nothing I did was right. Didn't feel like I could help anyone, could get anyone out of a situation. Just, it was miserable. But Mike and Kevin came in and completely turned that place around and really set us up for success. And so I was acting enlisted conductor then in 2000, late 2006, I want to say.
Okay.
Waiting for a opening for drum major to come up. So I could
nice. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of dual hat platoon sergeant for a while and acting enlisted conductor because Tim Otis had left.
All right.
Yeah. I loved him to death. Tim was such a
Otis is another powerhouse trumpet player too, right?
Yeah. Tim was a monster. And Tim was with us through all of Hurricane Katrina. He was the EC through all of that.
Okay.
But then he left and we were gapped for a while. So since I had the course, I was the acting enlisted conductor. So Jesse Barter was drum major at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 2007, Mark Gleason was at Pac 20. I don't remember what it was called that week either.
Whatever flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. He calls me and he goes, because Jesse got there like early June 2005, and I got there like late June, early July.
Okay.
So we essentially had two drum majors, and I'd finally picked up, I think 2007, 2006 maybe. I'd finally picked up the MOS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're officially drum major at that point.
Yeah. So I was officially drum major, but Jesse was still there. So he was drum major. I was acting EC at the time. I think that all happened 2007. Got selected in 2007. And then maybe it was 2008, Mark Gleason called. And he's like, hey, you've both been there 3 years. What do you want to do? Who wants to go where? What's going to happen? And Jesse and I were sitting in the kind of the Three Amigos office. It was wide open.
Right.
We all had a desk there. We look at each other and I was like, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to get the hell out of here. And I was like, I'd actually kind of like to stay. And so we told Mark, we're like, how about we save you a move, just leave me here as drum major and move Jesse. That way you don't have to then move a third person in by moving both of us out. He's like, great, saves me the work. So I ended up staying there for 2 more years as drum major.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So another 5-year tour in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Just the way, the way things work out, just sometimes it helps just to ask the damn question.
Yeah,
You don't know
exactly.
until you ask. You know,
Yeah.
had either chance I'd been told no, I'd been perfectly acceptable with it, and my career would have been what it would have been.
Yeah.
Uh, but I learned early on, just ask the damn question. Um,
Well, I mean, if you don't ask, you don't know.
exactly.
Yeah. Just
Exactly.
ask the question. And what's the worst thing they say is no? I want to take a moment to talk about something important. Getting the VA disability rating and benefits you've earned. The VA claims process is overwhelming and can feel like a maze. For a lot of us, just getting started is half the battle. That's where Brookside comes in. Brookside Veteran Services. We've got your six. Brookside has helped tons of veterans, just like you and me, take on the VA claim system with confidence. Whether you're filing for the first time, going through an appeal, or trying to get rating increase, they've got your back. Here's some of what they offer. Step-by-step help with your VA disability claim, support with appeals and increases, a personalized approach that respects the unique services and situation, and the best part, no upfront fees. They only get paid when you do. Go see the website, www.helpvetusa.com. Contact Michael Irie, Veteran Services Representative on Facebook, or email michael.helpvetusa@gmail.com or admin.helpvetusa@gmail.com. The bottom line is you served your country. You earned these benefits. Let Brookside help you get what's yours. Brookside Veteran Services. We've got your six. That's
Yeah. So so I'm finally drum major at the band in New Orleans.
mm-hmm.
Wife's a cop there. I feel like I know everybody in town, right? Like Mardi
Right.
Gras was easy because I knew the cops, I knew anybody who's everybody, and just the command was good. It was just an incredible experience. I'd literally gone from the lowest low in my career to the highest high at that point. And then former Commandant General Robert Barrow passed away, and he was being buried in St. Francisville, just outside of Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And in his will, he stated that he wanted the Marine Corps Band New Orleans to perform at his funeral. Well, the problem with that is when a commandant passes away, the Marine Band and Marine Barracks Washington travels and does their funeral.
Right.
So none of us knew what to expect. So my predecessor at the Marine Band, Bill Brown, calls me one day out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey, I'm drum major for the Marine Band. We need to figure this out. What are you doing tomorrow at 1300?" I was like, nothing. What do you need? He's like, "You, me, and the Marine Corps funeral director have to be on a VTC with the commandant."
Oh, wow.
Okay. Because I was a drum major and this was a funeral ceremony, I was the action officer for it.
Right.
Like, take this is yours. Just run with it. Long story short, I was able to navigate through all of that. And what they ended up needing was the barracks and the Marine Band were going to come down to St. Francisville, conduct the entire funeral, but we were going to basically do like a second line with our brass band after the funeral to get the family from the cemetery just, 100, 200 yards away into a building where they were going to have a reception afterwards.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then I think we had a brass quintet in there playing kind of background music for the reception. So I ended up going up to St. Francisville the day prior when the advance element from the barracks and the band, to include the drum major, came down to scope things out. Meet Bill. He's explaining how funerals work, and I'm talking to him about what we do here, and asking questions. And then the next day, get our guys up there. The entire force from the barracks comes down. They do the funeral. The whole thing goes off without a hitch. It's great. And in talking with Bill, he's like, "Hey, I think we've got a assistant drum major opening coming up soon." Just Eric Yoakum was in the spot at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd only been there 2 years, so none of us were expecting an opening.
Right.
And so Bill's like, you should consider putting in for it. Okay, I don't know what the assistant drum major there does, but it's with the Marine Band, so it's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So ended up submitting for that, and got selected to go up and audition as the assistant drum major spot with the Marine Band.
Right.
Aaron Golden and I were the two that got selected. I don't even know if anybody else put in for it, but I know that we were the two that were selected to go up that particular year, which was cool because when Aaron came to the band from, he was in aviation ordnance, I think, when he first enlisted, and then was trumpet player in high school and didn't know about the band program. Does OJT at the Paris Island Band, and I ended up starting to teach him how to drum major.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
Yeah, teaching him how to spin a mace. And Aaron and I ended up being great friends. We still are. I mean, like every day we're texting, sending memes, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Such a great guy. So I really thought it was cool that I got selected, and the guy that I had started teaching how to drum major also got selected. I thought that was pretty cool. So we both fly up to DC from I think Aaron was even in New Orleans at the time. I don't remember. He might have been somewhere else. Anyways, go up to DC, 2-day audition, win the audition. This was 2009. This happened, so like September 2009. And then April 2010, reported as the assistant drum major for the Marine Band. And that was some culture shock on a number of levels, right? Because the Marine Band. Members of the Marine Band don't go to recruit training. They come in directly as a staff sergeant. So you have to kind of wrap your head around, so how does this whole Marine Corps side of things work? I've been in the fleet my entire career. So how am I going to balance this? Which ultimately is the big question at the audition. Like, I can teach you how to spin a mace. Teach you how to conduct, right? How well are you going to fit in, and how well are you going to navigate spending all this time in the fleet and now dealing with staff and COs who've never been in the fleet and never gone through training. And that's, quite frankly, that's what we're looking for, is someone who can do that. And so I had a lot of great people in the Marine Band. Just the quintessential professionals are there. They're obviously world-class musicians at every freaking level. On every instrument, it's mind-boggling how good they are musically. But they're even better people, which I came to know and love. And some of the more senior master sergeants, master gunnies pulled me aside early on and were like, hey, if you want to be successful here, here's how we do business. Here's how we need you to do things, whether it's drum majoring, conducting, communicating. And it wasn't like, they weren't telling me that to try to pull one over on me or for me to let them walk all over them. It was like, no, here's what we need, right? Here's what we need from you for us to be successful, right? We've seen it work different ways. This is what we need. Give it a shot, right? Tried it and it worked. And, so I really learned so much there. As the assistant drum major. You're also a company gunnery sergeant. You've got 7 fleet Marines, typically 0311s in the stage crew. You've got 3 3043s or whatever their MOS is now in our supply office. And then you've got a couple 0111 admin clerks that you have to maintain all of their annual training and requirements and all that kind of stuff. So you still have that little piece of the fleet side that's happening. Just a really, really cool experience. Learned.
And you're the one training the new members as well, right?
So when a new member wins an audition for the Marine Band, when a person wins the audition for the Marine Band, the drum major is then responsible for getting them to MEPS, getting them enlisted, getting them orders, getting them moved down to DC. Once they check in, you turn them over to the assistant drum major, and the assistant drum major is responsible for doing all of the training, everything they need. And this is kind of the line that I typically use. The assistant drum major teaches them everything they need to know about the Marine Corps, except for combat-related skills, because the Marine Band does not have a secondary combat role. So they teach them how to walk, talk, act like a Marine staff and CO, get them all their uniforms issued, teach them everything they need to know. So it's typically one-on-one for about 6 weeks straight. They don't have any musical requirements. The musicians aren't playing in the section at the time. Their job is strictly to learn how to be a member of the Marine Band and how to be a Marine staff.
That's really cool. I didn't realize it was that long. 6 weeks is, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good chunk of time.
Yeah. And a lot of times you have to, you're doubling up, right? Like 2 weeks in with somebody, you get someone else checking in. And so now you're balancing
Oh,
these schedules.
wow.
We've had like 5 or 6 people checking in, like all within a week or two of each other.
So each one of them are staggered then as you're
Yeah,
teaching them?
sometimes you can, like, if they're within a week or so of each other, you can kind of delay one person and speed another person up and then put
Oh,
them
I
on the
see.
same
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
A lot of that just depends on the specific assistant drum major and how they like to manage things.
Right.
I've been extremely fortunate um, that once I became drum major, that I've had amazing assistants that were all extremely well organized and amazing work ethics. Good people, great drum majors. So they really made life easy for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So 3 years goes by, I do that. And one day Bill Brown comes into the office one morning, and I was a geo bachelor. My family had stayed in New Orleans. So I'm
Okay.
living in Paris. So I walked down 2 flights of stairs, go into my office, making coffee that morning. And Bill comes in, and Bill used to ride his bike to work from Waldorf every day, which I don't know, 20, 30 miles on his bike.
Every day?
Oh, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
dang.
he'd drive in and bring his bike and go for a ride during lunch. Bill's a phenomenal cyclist. His life, he was like a semi-pro cyclist and stuff.
Yeah. Well, he always posts pictures of him biking places. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, he's done numerous like races, like
Yeah.
on teams and stuff like that on bike racing teams. So that was nothing new for Bill to ride in.
Yeah.
And every morning I'd be in the office and you'd hear the wheels of the bike rolling down the hallways. Like, oh, Bill's here.
Yeah.
And then one day he parked his bike outside of my office and walks into the colonel's office, the director of the Marine Band, shuts the door. Bill never did that. He always would come into his office, change clothes, put his uniform on, open his door, and then go talk to people.
Yeah.
So I instantly knew something was, all right, something's going on. And then I start thinking, crap, what did I do? What am I in trouble for? What did I screw up? Hour later, Bill walks out and he walks into my office and shuts the door. And I'm like, crap, here we go. What did I do? He's like, you didn't do anything. I just want to let you know, be the first person to tell you that I just told the colonel that I'm going to retire. And I've recommended that you be the next drum major of the Marine Band. Completely blown away at this point. I'm like, I'm completely humbled by that.
Yeah.
And the colonel, to his credit, and I appreciate the fact that he did this, Colonel Mike Colbert, said, no, we're going to do an audition anyways. I think you may be right. But if Duane's that good, then he'll just come up and win the audition. But that's on him to do. And I appreciated the fact that he did that, because that way there's no question about, they just pull people that they like. Anything like that. It's like, nope, you go through the audition process. And I think it worked out well. So I left. I ended up, because the audition wasn't going to be until was it September of 2013. So I had orders back to the fleet. And again, just smart enough to know that if I'm gone for 3 years, they're going to have to gone from New Orleans for 3 years. They're going to have to move another drum major in there, and then that drum major will be rotating out when it's time for me to rotate.
It's pretty smart.
So the family's like, well, we'll just stay in New Orleans because my wife had just started a new job as a federally certified ballistics expert. My kids had just gotten into a new school, a new Catholic school that they had really been working to get into. So it made sense for me to go up there and be a geo bachelor. And I knew there was a good chance of me going back there after 3 years because it's like, it makes sense, right? It's saving Pac-20 a move. And so they agreed to it. So I had orders back to New Orleans. July of 2013, leave the Marine Band as assistant drum major, go back to New Orleans as the drum major, knowing all along that I'm going to audition for the drum major spot, the President's Own.
Right.
And, I don't remember if it was late that fall. It was either like September or February. it might have been September of 13. Anyways, go up, take the audition, pass, win the audition, and then April, I think it was April, I moved back up 2014 and moved the whole family up.
So you weren't down in New Orleans not even a year at that point.
9, 10 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very, very, very short tour there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the nice things about the Marine Band, though, is that when someone from the fleet wins an audition like that, they can go, "Thank you very much. We're gonna."
Yeah.
And the monitors are all great, and everybody understands. Like, this is the Marine Band. They need who they need. Let's give it to them when they need them.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
so
I got to go in for that audition, and
that's right.
Bill Brown called me. He's like, "Hey, somebody's got to do this audition with King," and I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "You need to come do this audition." I'm like, "I wasn't planning on doing an audition, but okay, I'll come up. Sure, yeah, I get to march the band around. Sure."
Yeah.
So I went up there, and the whole time I'm like, "Dude, if they don't pick King, they're idiots." I guess that was my mindset. I'm like, "There's no way." I'm like, he's the guy who's been doing it. He knows the job. He's very good at it. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing up there.
Who else? It was me, you, Matt
Boatwright, and who was the other one?
Was it Devin?
No.
There's 4.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't remember who the other one was.
Yeah, but it was
Wilson.
Yeah,
was it Wilson?
Right.
Yeah.
Was it Dave?
I think it was.
Maybe so. Yeah, you're right.
Because he was at Quantico.
Yeah, you're right. It was Dave.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, being 6 inches taller than everybody else really helped.
Yeah. For those that don't know, he's a little taller than most folks. What is it?
6'6".
6'6". Yeah. So, and then you put the bear skin on, which makes you how tall at that point? Did you ever measure? 8 feet?
I did. Yeah. 8 feet with the bear skin. It's an 18-inch bear skin, so I'm 8 feet tall with the bear skin on.
Wow.
Yeah, which is great when you're marching out of the arcade at Marine Barracks, Washington, because the way we set the band up is it's reverse from a fleet band, right? In a fleet band, you're putting your tallest people in the center and shortest people on the outside.
Yeah.
In Marine Band, we do it opposite. We put the shortest people in the center and the tallest people on the outside, so the band looks taller when they're marching by.
Oh, okay, yeah, makes sense.
Because most of what we do there ceremonially, a lot of it's all fairly well scripted.
Yeah,
so it's not like there's unknown turns or curves or stuff like that where we have to worry about alignment getting wonky.
Right.
We're marching straight up and down the deck, making the box, those type of things. So it's not terribly difficult. So at that point you can look more at the visual than you need to allow people to focus on the alignment, because the alignment just is what it is there. So I moved up in April 2014, and June 26th, I think it was.
Yeah.
It was a Thursday, was the relief and appointment between Bill and I.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that was his retirement.
That was his retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the same way that I just did mine 2 weeks ago, we
Yeah.
did the relief and appointment right into Bill's retirement.
Got you. Okay.
In fact, I used that script to make the script for
nice.
For my ceremony. Just reuse it.
It's always nice when it's already there.
Oh yeah, that's the nice thing about being permanently stationed there, is you can keep all that stuff for so long.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You know where everything is. But I mean, being the assistant drum major, I've done a lot of the gigs and stuff like that. You don't do, as assistant drum major, you're not going to do stuff for the president or vice president. At best you'll get a SecDef gig here or there, but it's rare that you do anything for anyone under a 3-star.
Wow.
Like, it's always 3-star and above. Like, we don't do retirements for a 2-star or 1-star.
No kidding. Wow.
Oh yeah. You only do retirements for 3 stars and above at Marine Barracks, Washington.
Holy cow.
Every guest who's there is a lieutenant general, a general, a congressman, senator, ambassadors, president, vice president, secretaries of whatever cabinets, you name it. But the assistant drum major doesn't necessarily get those gigs. anything that's typically like SecDef for hire the drum major. At least that's the way it was with Bill. It's the way I did it.
Yeah.
Imagine Master Sergeant Steve Williams, who took over from you, will probably have a similar mindset. But yeah, so I take over on a Thursday. The very next day, we've got an evening parade on June 27th or 28th or whatever it was.
Yeah.
For President Obama.
Oh, no kidding.
My very first gig as drum major was a presidential parade. Yeah. So I mean, it's like literally just right into the deep end.
Wow, that's awesome though.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great experience going through that, and that one job benefited me immensely.
Yeah.
Over the next 10 years, because anytime president or vice president started talking about, or we started getting wind that they might be coming.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we've done this before, right?
Oh, like, yeah.
You know, because everybody else at the barracks, they rotate out every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You know, so they always look to the Marine Band and go, hey, what did we do last time this was here? And being all the meetings and being a senior enlisted there, you know, you quickly develop a rapport of like, hey guys, I already know what this is going to look like. I can already tell you what Secret Service is going to do when they get here. You know, and here's how the parade needs to change. Here's what needs to stay the same. You know, so that really helps out.
So you're basically the constant in what happens there, you know, and with everybody rotating in and out, a lot of times they're just flying by the seat of their pants trying to figure it out. And by the time they do get it figured out, they're leaving.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we joked about that a lot with, you know, sometimes sergeant majors and commanding officers that come through, you know, if we've got issues with someone on the staff or in one of the, you know, battalion offices somewhere, you know, we eventually get to the point, you know, if you can't make things work, you know, or have a good working relationship with someone, which happens from time to time. Yeah. You know, we would just go, okay, that's fine. We're just going to wait you out until the next person gets here. You know? That's
a good point, though.
For you, it's 2 to 3 years. For us, like, you're my 7th commanding officer.
Yeah.
You're my 8th supply officer. You know, like, I'm just going to wait for the next person to come through and then talk to them, do what we need to do.
That's so true, though.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, it's always respectful. And that's one thing I love about the Marine Band is consummate professionals, right? They don't lose their cool. They don't fly off the handle and say something stupid in a meeting. It's just always above board and always professional.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great environment. You know, and then being senior enlisted there, I really feel like I got a PhD in leadership.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, it was, you know, because when you're a master gunny in a band, you know, you got 40, 50 Marines at best. And most of them are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. Maybe a few mid-20s, and you have a handful of staff NCOs that are 30s, maybe 40s. But we all grew up the same way. We all came in the same, you know. With the Marine Band, I've got 185 grown-ass adults. Yeah. And
set in their ways. Yeah. They've been there. They've done that.
Does not fly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, and I agree with that. You know, a lot of people will argue that I shouldn't have to explain why I told you to do this, right? And by traditional Marine Corps leadership and understanding, that makes sense, right? Because you're preparing Marines for combat, and in combat, there's not time to ask why. I am absolutely of the mindset of, if you develop the trust and respect of your Marines and you give them the why when there's time,
that's true.
Then when there's not time, they'll understand that he wouldn't ask us to do something that he didn't need us to do right away. And that's one of the biggest things I learned about leadership there, was developing the trust and respect of the people that I'm leading, the people that I'm working with.
Right.
You know, so that when I say, hey, we need this, or this needs to happen, or this is the way this should be, you don't get a why, right? Well, I've either already talked to you and explained it to you, or you know that you can come into my office and go, "Hey, drum major, why did we do this?
Yeah.
Why did we do it this way?" Right? One, you have the confidence that you can walk in my office. I'm not going to rip your head off or something stupid.
Yeah.
Which didn't always happen growing up.
That's true. That's true.
You know, and I'm going to treat you like an adult and tell you as much as I can the honest truth. You know, there are certain things that the entire organization doesn't need to know. And there are things about why we make decisions that not everybody needs to know. But if there's time and I have the ability to have that conversation with someone, I should.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
As long as you ask why with the intent of doing your job better, I've never had a problem with that. If you're asking why because you just don't want to do something, I have no use for that. Just just like
very true.
You know, and I still always try to avoid because I said so, because that to me that's a cop out as a leader. Even if you change it to because this is what I think we need to do, and I'm the one making the decision.
Yeah.
Right. That's a different message than because I said so.
Yeah. Right? That's true though. Yeah.
At least it gives them a reason. And they go, okay, I don't agree with it. Don't care if you agree. Go do it.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't have to agree with it, but unfortunately you're going to have to do it.
And there were a number of occasions where I had Marines of every rank come to me and go, "Hey, drum major, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? Or why can't we do this instead?" I said, "Well, here's what you don't know." And, you know, and that's why I'm in this position and you're not, is because I know all of this information. More than happy to share with you afterwards, you know, and we can agree or disagree on my decision. But at the end of the day, I'm the one that has to make a decision. And here's the decision I made.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't think of a time where someone walked out of my office and didn't at least respect me for doing that. They might not have liked it. They might not have agreed with it, but they at least respected the fact that I took the time to talk with them and explain to some level what they were doing.
Well, I'll say, I mean, and you said this a little bit earlier, but you at least have the attitude of if somebody's going to come in and give me advice, or somebody's going to come in and say, "Hey, this is what we need to be successful," like you were talking about, the section leaders came to you. You're smart enough to go, "Okay, I'm going to listen to that, and I'm going to do what I can do to make that happen, if at all possible." So I think the way you work and your work ethic, I think it lend itself great for what you were doing. So
it's if you want trust and respect, you need to give it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. If you don't trust or respect the people you're working with, how in the hell can you expect them to do the same thing with you?
Yeah.
So you give it, you take their advice, you see if it works, you have conversations with people and go, "Hey, I tried this. Not really a fan of it. Do you think we can try it this way?" Or, "Hey, thanks for letting me know this worked really well. I appreciate it. I'm going to put this in my tool bag and use it every time."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just you build rapport with people. And it worked wonders for me. I mean, that's, if anything made me successful while I was there, that was it.
Yeah. And you did a heck of a job while you were there. I gotta be honest, man. I was always proud to say that, you know, I knew you and we're friends, and, you know, I could say, "Hey, I know a guy."
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean,
it's good.
I did that for, ironic, it was 10 years, 10 months, and 10 days.
Yeah, that was really cool, though.
I did
in
that
the ceremony. That was smart.
And honestly, that's just the way it worked out.
No kidding.
From the date that I took over to the date that I retired, that just, like, I didn't make it up. I didn't move the ceremony by a date or anything like that. That's just happens to be the way it worked out.
You know what that tells me is that's divine, man.
Yeah.
That's somebody upstairs said, "Hey, this is going to be cool. Watch this. 10, 10, 10.
Yep. Yeah. So I'd actually, a lot of people don't know this, but enlisted career force controls do not apply to members of the Marine Band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
okay.
we had one member, a guy named Charlie Corrado, was a piano player and accordion player back in the 60s to the 90s, somewhere time frame. Guy served 44 years.
Oh, that's the guy that, like, the service stripes basically touched the chevrons, right?
Yeah, he had 11 service stripes. Yeah.
That's
it
insane, man.
it was incredible. We had another guy, Mike Ressler, was 38 years, something like that.
Jeez.
Yeah, but our current director, Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Nowlin, who's an amazing individual, who's going to do great things with the band. He offered for me to stay longer.
Really?
Asked me to stay another 2 or 3 years because he had just taken over as director. We just brought in Jose Toronzo as a new assistant director. Captain Darren Lynn had only been in the organization 4 or 5 years, so he was still he's still building his base as a leader and understanding the organization. Lieutenant Colonel Doug Burian moved from executive assistant back over to operations. So he was while he had been there for his entire career, he was in a new position again. We brought our female vocalist, Sarah Sheffield, came in as our deputy director of administration and production. So while she'd been in the band 20 years, she was in a new role. And so I was the only person in that command element that was still doing the job that I was brought in to do. Everybody else was either brand new to it or just in a new role.
Wow.
And then you add on top of that, this year's obviously.
It's a big one. Big year, 250.
250 of the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
Next year, 250 of the nation.
That's right. Yeah.
And then the year after that, 2027, they're looking to do some international travel. And he wanted that to kind of be my swan song and go with the band on that international travel.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it anymore. It was time to hang it up. I mean, physically.
Yeah, it was. Physically, how many years total was it? 31?
30 years, 5 months, and 20 days.
So just over 30, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a long time, dude. I did 25, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So doing 30, man.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you.
Yeah, and we do, and the Marine Band, we do, I don't know, 150 ceremonies a year between parades, funerals, retirements, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like when
but here's the thing that I'm impressed with, like blows my mind, dude. You're 30-year master gunny out on the parade deck marching.
Yeah.
Standing at attention during all your parade rest, during all of the speeches and all that. Dude, I don't know how you did it.
It hurt. I'll tell you. Towards the end, it hurt.
I understand that.
And that's when I knew it was time to hang up. And I'm not that old. I'm 48, right? I still got plenty of life left ahead of me.
That's right. Yeah.
But I knew we had, between all of the assistant drum majors that I had, Steve Williams, Stacy Crowther, Monica Preston, Jay Holt, and now Tyler Limbrock, I knew we had a crop, and it was the right time for me to move on. Because if I had stayed 3 years longer, 4 of the 5 probably really wouldn't have been in contention again. They would have been
some of them would be retired even. Yeah.
Stacy could have been retired. Monica could have punched. Jay and Monica are on the same timeline, right? So it could have pushed all of them out of that window.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, all of them can do this job.
Yeah.
Probably better than I have, right? If you want to be honest. They just wouldn't be as tall. What do you do?
And well, hey, that goes a long ways.
It does, but it's not the be all end all either, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And I have such respect for those 5 Marines that were the assistant drum major. I was the drum major there.
Now, who was the shortest drum major? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know that they ever kept records like that back that far. But for the longest time, God, until probably the 90s, it was whoever the senior drum major in the fleet was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
From like the 50s, I guess the fleet bands are all kind of solidified around the 50s, if I were to guess, right?
Yeah, around then, I think.
Yeah, so at that point,
before that they had the drum and bugle corps, plus they also had like buglers attached to different units and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, so the bands were still kind of fledgling at that point in time, but then once the field kind of fleshed itself out and we had the bands where they had the bands, it became whoever the senior drum major in the fleet was.
Right.
There was assigned there. until the 90s, because they had a few drum majors come through that they were drunks or, just really, really wrong personality for that organization.
Yeah, I could see how that could happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in the 99, 2000 timeframe is when they instituted the audition process for drum majors.
I think that was pretty smart, man. Because I mean, like for me, example, like if I'd have rotated in there, I don't think I would have been the best fit. I mean, I probably could have done the job. Don't get me wrong.
You could have
But
done
I
the
don't
job
think.
well. You would have been frustrated a lot.
Yeah.
You would have been
Yeah.
frustrated a lot.
And
Yeah.
probably people would have been frustrated with me a lot.
Yep.
And it's just by nature of how we are, man. Everybody's personality is different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm very, very blessed that I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
For that job, and was supported so much by everyone in that organization. They really gave me a lot of support, and through growing pains and good decisions, bad decisions, they really supported me through that. And I'd learned so much while I was there about leadership, about people, about drum majoring, the art of drum majoring.
That's
really,
right.
Really, really did. Because I was finally in one place where I could just focus on that at times. Like, why do we do the things the way we do them?
Yeah, for sure.
So now that leads me to where I'm at now.
So now you're retired.
Yeah.
You've been golfing. You've been, hanging out for the last couple of weeks at least.
Yep.
What's next on the agenda?
So I'm currently writing a book on American military style drum majoring and leadership.
Nice.
It's going to be a 2-part book, and the way that it's envisioned in my mind, I've got the first draft is out of publishing now.
Nice.
The first half is how to drum major, right? How to spin a mace, how to lead a band, with a lot, and it's not going to just be a technical manual like the band manual would be, but it's going to be more of, here's why we do this, and here's how I figured out a way to do this better or different, or here's just add some anecdotes in there to make it a little bit more interesting while you're learning. And then the second part, part one's that, part two is going to be leadership from a drum major's perspective, right? But the leadership part is mostly going to be leadership at a very basic level, catering to that high school, college age, like 16 to 22 age, because inevitably people are starting to enter into leadership roles in their lives at that point in time.
Right.
And there is very little out there leadership wise that teaches them just the basics of leadership, right? Like, what does it mean to set the example? How do I communicate effectively, right? Things like that. How do I earn people's trust and respect? It doesn't need to be a mile-long list of traits or principles or all these things that the Marine Corps beats into your head, or that you can learn at these master classes or TED Talks or YouTube videos or books or seminars or whatever it is you get to. The vast majority of that is too much for young leaders to fully embrace and be able to actually use, right? And so the way I teach this is like do these 3 things, right? Set the example, communicate effectively, and actually give a shit about the people you're leading every single day. Start there.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else you want to learn about leadership is going to be based off of those 3 things.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything, right? And so that's where the leadership aspect of the book comes in, written from a drum major's perspective, right? How does a drum major lead a band communication-wise? What do we look like? Stuff like that, with the intent of, you can take drum major, band, musician, music, all of those words out of it and put it into any facet of a young leader's life, right?
Right.
Whether it's you're in charge of your church group on Sundays, right? If you're a brand new manager at a McDonald's, right? Like anything, like leadership is kind of
it's universal.
It's universal. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's universal. So so I've got a drum major camp at the University of Louisiana Monroe the third week of June.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, trying
Nice.
to get some other camps set up. Might go down and work at the University of Florida some with Jay Watkins, the director of the marching band there.
Okay.
Doing stuff like that. So that's what I'd love to do is get out, go to school and teach for a day or 3 or 4 days, whatever. If it's a camp or a clinic, and teach kind of at that level, but not do it full time because I don't have the patience to be a teacher full time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I don't either. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
God bless those people, man. Teachers.
Absolutely. So I think if I do, kind of the, just kind of the assault tactics on teaching, come in for a few days, teach them what I know, get out.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So
nice.
That's what I'm looking at doing.
Cool. Well, if anybody's out there and they want to be able to get in contact with you to do all that, man, like or pull you in to do a clinic or anything like that, how are they getting in contact with you?
So I'm still working on getting my my website up and running.
Okay.
So once I do, I'll send it out to you and have a link where people can contact me, email me, schedule, for leadership talks, drum major camps, clinics, and I do. I'll say either side of drum majoring for here in America, right? The standard Band of America DCI style, this thing, or what we did in the Marine Corps, the Mace style drum majoring, So I'll be doing the first style at Louisiana Monroe.
Gotcha.
Teaching kids how to conduct 4 patterns and stuff like that. But every opportunity I get to talk with especially kids at that age about basic leadership skills, I try to shove it as far down their throat as I can.
I like it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, shoot, man, that's awesome. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story, dude. It's great.
Yeah, my pleasure. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, hey, I always. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying the work you do, getting veteran stories out there. Letting people hear about what everybody else does, and how we can all relate with each other is very important. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. And I always tell people it's because most everybody says, "Oh, my story's not important." Yeah, there's nothing there. And I always tell them, the big green machine wouldn't keep rolling if it wasn't for you and what you did. So that's why I try to get everybody in, and eventually, once you get somebody talking, they'll talk, man. I mean, just like me and you were like, how long? And I'm like, well, I've sat here for 3 hours before. But think about this, man. We've been talking for 1 hour and 41 minutes already.
Yeah.
It's gone by like this, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. It's awesome. Well, hey, I always ask questions at the end. I got these rapid fire questions, man.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. I'm going to put them up. So what is your proudest military moment?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Leading the Marine Band for the 2017 presidential inaugural parade.
Ooh, that's a good one, though. Yeah, I like that. All right, what is your most embarrassing military moment?
Oh, God, I don't remember the exact date. I was with the band in New Orleans. My first tour as a Lance Corporal. We fly to New York for the U.S. Open. We're marching out, or going to march out onto Arthur Ashe Stadium to play the national anthem before the final match. And somebody decided to forget their core frames back in New Orleans. So I had to sit and watch it from the sidelines.
Oh. Yeah, that's no fun.
Yep.
Yeah, forgetting the uniform items. That's good. And the shoes, that's a hard one to replace, man.
Like, especially for my big feet.
Yeah, you can't. There's no covering it up, man.
You can't squeeze in somebody else's extra pair.
All right. If you could be one military leader for a day, who would that be?
Ooh, wow. Man, one military leader. Jim Mattis.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's a good one. Good answer. All right. Let's see. If you could change one rule in the military, what would it be?
Allow females to have ponytails.
Now, they changed a lot of those regulations. I don't know what all it changed to, but
Yeah,
there's still no ponytails, right?
still no ponytails. They almost did
Okay.
it, and then they decided at the last minute to pull that. But the basically medium length hair, instead of no longer than the bottom of the collar,
Yeah.
no more than 2 inches below the bottom of the collar, which is smart because for females who are growing their hair out from short to long,
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's the time frame where they can't put it up into a bun, and it's just a
Yeah.
pain in the ass for them. So at least it gives them that ability to. I'm now in regulations down to 2 inches below the collar, and then I can start putting it up.
Which also allows them to be able to put it up, and it doesn't look like it's a little bitty, weird thing on the back of their head. It actually looks normal.
Yeah, a little bread.
The
Yeah,
bun
and
or
they
whatever.
stopped, basically forcing females to plaster their hair to their head too.
Oh yeah.
So
That's a big one, man.
Yeah, I know that's the ponytail thing is been a hot button topic for a lot of them, but in a dress uniform, absolutely not. In utilities, PT gear, PT gear, they can already do it. No reason not to do it in utilities, right? Especially in Garrison, right? And if they're in field or in training, they're having to do weird shit with their hair anyways.
True.
So it doesn't really matter at that point. So
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. What is one lesson or skill that you learned that you still use today?
One lesson or skill. Probably treat other people how you want to be treated.
Yeah, the golden rule.
Yep.
That's good. Yeah. I like it. All right, we're going to get crazy on this one. Ready? In the zombie apocalypse, what would be your weapon of choice, and what anthem is going to be playing?
The medieval mace, because I'm a drum major. Freaking cool, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And we're going to go with ZZ Top, Fat Bottom Girls, because it'd be funny.
Nice. That is a good tune, though, man. You can't go wrong there. Yeah, can't go wrong there. My child is trying to get in the camera here. All right, go on. She wants the cat.
Of course.
All right, what animal best describes your time in service?
My time in the service.
Yeah.
The dog.
Okay.
Because of the loyalty.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you have to be loyal to the Marine Corps.
That is true. That is very true. All right, man. Now the questions are going to get real tough. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. What branch of the military has the sexiest uniform?
Let me think about this one. Marine Corps.
Okay. Since that one you had to think so hard, this next one, I don't know if you'll get it. But what branch of the service is the best?
Ooh, wow. There's a couple here that I could probably go with, but I guess I'll break the tie and go Marine Corps.
Okay. I love it. I love it. I do get other people other than Marines on here, so it's always interesting to hear what their answers are. But all right, man. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again?
I absolutely would, without a question of a doubt.
Very nice. Very nice.
I've loved it. I wouldn't do it all the same, but I would do it again.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, hey, what kind of words of wisdom or anything you would like to share with the listeners as we're closing out here?
Same advice my mom gave me when I was in high school and thinking about joining the military as a musician. If you do what you love for a living, you'll never work a day in your life.
Ooh.
And for 30 years, 5 months and 20 days, I've done what I've loved, and I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life.
Yeah, that's good, man. You're full of great advice, man. This is good. That's good. I should have you on here more often to give us little nuggets like that,
Full of something, I don't know.
Well, shoot, man. Thanks for coming on and doing this. I appreciate it. I'm excited to see where you go from here. And if you ever need anything on my end, I'm here.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Twiddling my thumbs and doing podcasts. That's all I do. So
good for you. You deserve it.
All right, man. Well, as I close up, I always talk about veteran suicide, right, and options that they have. But for all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA has some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on the chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. I know Duane cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you serve with, ask them how they're doing, and if they need a helping hand, please give it to them. All right, Duane, one last time, man. You're the man. Thanks for coming on and doing this. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated. Change your socks.
Follow me.